After only 12 years of Reconstruction following the Civil War, our politicians created the apartheid system of Jim Crow. It was rooted in the false ideology of racial inferiority and lasted until 1964. Now that the UUSF Board of Trustees has approved this new racial justice resolution, and our congregation has embarked upon a new program called Journey to Wholeness, we are issuing a call to action to end systemic racism. We hope to move beyond educating ourselves to create a new, more just society.
On June 16th, a few weeks after the murder of George Floyd, our UUSF Board of Trustees passed a resolution proclaiming this society's intent to charge our members and ministers to actively dismantle racial and economic injustice. A few weeks earlier, on May 25th, we had witnessed the brutal murder of yet another black man, George Floyd, by the police in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which set off the remarkable awakening of the consciousness of this country and indeed the world. This country has a long legacy of structural racism causing harm and death to people of color, made apparent recently not only by the murder by the police of George Floyd, but also of Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and many others. That although law enforcement agencies are mandated to uphold the law, yet we witness more human rights abuses by police across the country, with people of color being disproportionately targeted, all due to a profound system of racial, class, and economic injustice. Therefore, we call upon the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, the mayor, and the city department heads to honor our city's commitment to uphold just laws, especially for people of color and the growing population of poor and homeless people on our streets. To recognize that the city's treatment of people of color and the poor has not always met the standards of true justice, leaving them unprotected and denied legal justice, including personal loss and even death at the hands of law enforcement officers. And that our schools have failed to educate children and the public about the history of slavery, the true history and policies of this country toward indigenous people who occupied this land for thousands of years, and its treatment of other people of color, and to implement new policies in the city government in the areas of law enforcement and education. In order to see change, we need to change policy and look at our present policies and laws that govern these actions. Therefore, this resolution makes clear our intention to oppose all forms of racist oppression, and to uproot systemic racism and economic inequality to the best of our ability.
I attended this year's General Assembly, which is the church's annual celebration and conference. It was held in June last month, and as an expression of our faith and values, UUs take positions relevant to issues of social justice. This year at GA, two profound statements were adopted. The first one titled Address 400 Years of White Supremacist Colonialism. This acknowledges the legacy of genocide against indigenous people, deliberate systemic racism against people of color, and ecocide against our earth, all systemically built into our official politics. And the second one, titled Amen to Uprising, a commitment and call to action. This one acknowledges the need to protest the mistreatment and killing of people of color by the police and calls for immediate change in the local laws like the police departments in the community. It includes working toward adjusting, defunding, or dismantling police departments as needed.
Hello, good people. So lovely to see us at safe distances with our masks. That is a beautiful sight. Let's just start there. But continuing our work of agitating for justice, keeping the issues. So a few weeks ago, we got a brand new banner professing our commitment to Black Lives Matter, to the larger campaign in Unitarian Universalism of siding with love wherever love was being constrained by prejudice, to stand instead with that which would draw the embrace and make the sacrifices necessary to draw the embrace wider. And that banner will stay up as long as we're living up to its challenge. As many of you heard at a lot of the witness events this last 6 weeks of life together in this city, a lot of the organizers, our people of color leaders, were saying, it's lovely to see you all here, but will you be here for the long haul? And I think that's what our resolution, and that's what the resolutions of the Unitarian Universalist Association are asking, right? To remember the words of Frederick Douglass, who said, and I'm sure I'm paraphrasing, that power concedes nothing without a demand. It never has and it never will, and so the demands have to continue.
Much has been happening in our world that should call us to attention and help define our moral obligations and the need for something new in our communal journey and relationships. It is critically important for us today to recognize that we stand on land inhabited and stewarded by the Ohlone people. As we pause to honor those ancestors, we need to acknowledge the fact that their exploitation is at the heart of the founding of this nation and is inscribed in its Declaration of Independence. Dr. Martin Luther King and many other freedom fighters often quoted the magnificent words penned in that document that originated 244 years ago. How wonderful they sound, like a lilting sound of music. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed with their Creator with certain unalienable rights, but among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It continues that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. I've liked that. Over the years, I have used it to justify my understanding that the system's got to go. It needs to change. It's got to come down. We can't continue to go the way we are with the system. But then I learned that it really was put there to justify the colonies that break England and Great Britain. It was not really intended for us, but it's just justified. When they talk about the abuses, they're talking about the abuses of King George and Great Britain. And among those abuses of King George and Great Britain was the fact that King George had drawn a line left of Appalachia that forbade them to move into that area. And they ended up by saying that he, the king, has excited domestic insurrections among us and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, the merciless Indian savages. That's in the founding document of this nation. That's in the Declaration of Independence. Frederick Douglass, and I know we've talked about this already, Frederick Douglass raised the question, what to the American slave is your 4th of July? I answer, a day that reveals to him more than all the other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, Your celebration is a sham. My grandmother, not as eloquent perhaps as Frederick Douglass, but just as meaningful, said this. I happened to visit her one summer at her house in Memphis, Tennessee, on July the 4th. And she said to me, Dorsey, what is today? I said, well, it's July the 4th. She said, no, I mean, what are they calling? What are they calling? I said, oh, Independence Day. She said, Independence Day. Independence Day. I don't know why you young black people support Independence Day. Our parents would not even let us celebrate Independence Day because they knew it had nothing to do with us. That was my grandmother. In 1957, Martin Luther King and others founded the Southern Christian Leadership Conference to redeem the soul of America. The presumption was that the nation had a soul and could be redeemed through nonviolent direct action. And with clear insight and uncompromised courage, he with voice and body declared the fallenness of this nation, what it really was, the most violent nation on the earth. We do live in a precious time, in a time when thousands of people across the globe are audaciously calling for an end to police brutality, symptomatic of an oppressive, racist society. George Floyd was a victim of breathing while black, as were Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Eric Garner, Micah Boyd, Sean Bell, Ayanna Mosé Stanley Jones, Amadou Diallo, Joel Acevedo, Jamar Clark, Philando Castillo, Tanisha Anderson, Ezell Ford, John Crawford, Tamir Rice, Breonna Taylor, Sean Monterosa, Rachel Sharp, and many others that we don't know, whose names have not reached the press or the media. Too many. What is happening with, and I sometimes have problems with technology, but I also have times when I give gratitude for technology. This kind of thing has been happening years and years in black communities. And black people have talked about it and nobody paid them attention. Those black people are always talking about racism and police brutality. Now the whole world has seen that this is true. It happens on a regular basis and it must stop. The Black Panther Party understood something very important that we need to understand. They understood that the need for policing is diminished when people have adequate education, housing, food, security, employment, when the communities can police themselves. In 1966, under the leadership of Bayard Rustin, A. Philip Randolph, and Dr. Martin Luther King, a freedom budget was proposed that addressed those realities, including a guaranteed national income and the needs of the disinherited as our nation's highest priority, the things that make for security and peace. No, we have not committed ourselves yet as a nation to the idea of beloved community, to living in the world house as Martin Luther King envisioned. Nevertheless, I am confident, and this gathering gives me even more confidence. I am confident that this is a propitious time in the journey of this nation, a pivotal opportunity, when the most beneficent, the most merciful, the God of life is breaking into history, into our time, our hearts, with a plea, a demand, a call for us to get it right. I believe that the children of the cosmos, all of us gathered here and beyond, are beginning a new walk together, truly as sisters and brothers. And that we shall not get weary during the difficult discussions, decisions, dismantling, deconstruction, revolution of values, and constitution of something we have never experienced before, but ought to experience now.
His experiences as a slave in his narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass, an American slave, 1845, which became a bestseller and a powerful argument for abolition Following the Civil War, Douglass remained an active campaigner against slavery. He also supported women's suffrage and held several public offices. Douglass was a firm believer in the equality of all peoples, be they white, black, female, Native American, or Chinese immigrants. When radical abolitionists, under the motto, "No union with stray slaveholders," criticized Douglass' willingness to engage in dialogue with slave owners, he replied, "I would unite with anybody to do right and with nobody to do wrong."
We need the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. The feeling of a nation must be quickened. The conscience of the nation must be roused. The propriety of the nation must be startled. The hypocrisy of the nation must be exposed, and its crimes against God and man must be proclaimed and denounced.
More than any other days in the year, the gross injustice and cruelty to which he is the constant victim. To him, your celebration is a sham. Your boasted liberty and unholy license, your national greatness, swelling vanity, your sounds of rejoice are empty and heartless. Your denunciations of tyrants, brass-fronted impudence, your shouts of liberty and equality, hollow mockery. Your prayers and hymns, your sermons and thanksgivings, with all your religious parade and solemnity, are to him more bombast, fraud, deception, impunity, hypocrisy, a thin veil to cover up crimes which would disgrace a nation of savages. There is not a nation on earth guilty of practices more shocking and bloody than are the people of these United States at this very hour. Go where you may, search where you will, roam through all the monarchies and despotisms of the old world, travel through South America, search out every abuse, and when you have found the last, lay your facts by side of the everyday practices of this nation, and you will say with me that for revolting barbarity and shameless hypocrisy, America reigns without a rival.
They want the ocean without the awful roar of its many waters. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but it must be a struggle. Power concedes nothing without a demand. It never did and it never will.
Yay! Wonderful.